Can you feel the ground rumble as he walks? The weight in the air as he stares you in the eye. It's the one, the only, Ramos! Hello, hello. Welcome, any and everybody. This is Leandros here to do my first episode of Kingsguard. I'm actually pretty excited. This one's been a little while coming. I've had one of my commenters recommend this a while back, and I'm finally getting to it. And I mean, the art was incredible. It actually cost money to play this one. Most visual novels I've seen for the furry fandom have been free. So I mean, I just think that, oh, there must be some extra quality to this one. And I mean, art-wise already, it's amazing. Music's great. It's very reminiscent of Legend of Zelda, I feel. And yeah, I'm really and for once, this is the first visual novel where I turned the game on for the first time. And even though the music was set all the way here, it didn't blow out my eardrums. So points to that already. I'm very curious and excited to see what's going to happen here. I'm curious. Transitions, unseen text after choices. I mean, no, I don't want to skip anything, but unseen text. All right, gallery. Ooh. Oh, wait. No, sorry. Take me back. Well, welcome in. Yes, this is a holy place where we can relive the most intimate moments of their past. Wow, that's wonderful, but I didn't mean to do this. Interesting. Return. Well then, take care. Sorry about that, didn't mean to walk in so suddenly. Alright, look at that. That was cool. Yeah, I'm excited. So I'm going to set my timer for a little bit more time than normal. But then I got to get ready for work too, so. But still. I want to make sure I usually set my timer for about 19 minutes. I'm going to set it for a few minutes more. Alrighty. Let me make sure everything's good. I wonder which one of these guys I'm going to choose, because I think I have to choose one of them eventually. I'm leaning towards the lion. I was going to pick the rhino. Something about those dreads were throwing me off, though. I don't know how to explain it. But anyway, let's see here. Your path will always be clear. None shall stand in your way, lest they face your wrath. Should I ever wrong you, my life will be forfeit, and my flesh decay without burial. My chest is your sword. My chest is your shield, my arm your sword. I am yours, bound to the crown, from this day forth, until I am relieved. Oh my goodness, that is one heck of an oath. It's giving me some Minotaur Hotel vibes. Alright, I'm trying to make sure everything's all set. Let me turn my fan off too, just in case. I want to make sure I can hear it all. Oops. Alrighty. Roses. Oh, this is interesting. Oh, Roses Cathedral. Okay, lore. The lore. Alright. New game. Whew. Let's do this. I wonder what voices I'm gonna do. Oh, what's my name again? I wake up from a drunken stupor. Something off of Lin. I'm gonna assume there is no default. Shoot, I can't remember if there's a default. Because I'd like to do the default if there is. Okay, hold on. Let me look. Hold on. There doesn't seem to be a default name. Yeah, okay. So, it's not going to be linen. I'll just go with some ancient-y sounding version of it. So, call me Linnaeus. Yeah. Oops. Linnaeus Luriasin. First of his name. Oh, what? Okay. Jeez, I'm trying to make sure everything's all. There we go. Is this all right? Linnaeus Luriasin. Sure, sounds good to me. 2120. Wait, this is the future? The first record. Today was supposed to be one of joy and celebration. Yet my hand shakes as I hold this quill. A man such as I, so devoted to the gods, fearing for the future. I suppose I am only human after all. Whatever happened to my faith? When did I become so skeptical? The two above stopped a never-ending war that would have left Torvair an infertile wasteland of corpses and ruins. We would have destroyed ourselves. No one left. Not men or beastmen. They gave us salvation from torment and eternal damnation. Now here we are, hundreds of years later, and not one war or conflict between nations since. My fears are unfounded. I should be hopeful, and yet... Linnaeus. The queen had given birth to an heir. A baby boy. A prince. It's been so long since I first heard that name that I had nearly forgotten. While the queen cradles him in her arms with a joyous smile, the king forces a grin with mournful eyes. Perhaps he too has seen a glimpse of the trials his own child must face. The fated day now approaches. It could be weeks, months, or years. So I pray for the gods to return. If only for one day. Ooh. Is this cool? Who's watching the football game? Okay, I'm sorry, I'm done. Your eyes slowly cracked open due to all the rambunctious cheering. A cacophony of clapping, stomping feet, and shouts of both joy and anger rumbled through your entire body. Let me quickly... It's a little bit. Alright. It should have been impossible to get any rest with all the noise, but you somehow managed to fall asleep regardless. Perhaps it wasn't so incredulous to believe, though. The past few weeks had left you exhausted with all the preparations for the upcoming coronation, the kingdom's most important and revered event in over a decade. I mean, it was so much to do, like turn on your darn timer, which I forgot to do again. Even the most expensive and luxurious bed couldn't keep you from tossing and turning in the middle of the night. You stifled a yawn and brought up an arm to shield your eyes from the bright sun, and found your arms baked to a golden hue. An arena attendee next to you shouted especially loudly into your ear. Get him! Get him! Get him! Aha! Yeah! You see that? The man elbowed you roughly, further steering you from your dreamlike haze. Rubbing your tired eyes, you squinted down from atop the stands of the arena at the fighting below. What's this? In the midst of your midday dream, you seem to have missed the most important part of the fight. Several bruised gladiators covered in blood, spit, and dirt were being hauled off the grounds, moaning in pain as they retreated. Ugh. Oh, they'll be talking about that for weeks! What happened? What? You were sleeping? Let's just say I haven't been having the best of nights lately. Ah, bad hangover from a good drink. Or did a woman keep you up all night? I wish it was something as pleasant as that. You didn't have the courage to tell the man that you were actually so tired from sneaking out of home so early in the morning, before even the birds started chirping to the light of the sun. What is this one? I want to click on it, but I don't want to... Ooh. I guess nothing happened? I want to go back. I wish it was something as pleasant as that. Okay, I guess it's nothing. And it wasn't because your father had a strict curfew or anything for you. Well, he did. But anyone would forbid their only son, and a prince at that, from leaving home and wandering the dangerous city streets without a bodyguard. Well, try not to miss anything else, or you'll be regretting it for the rest of your life. You nodded and took his advice to heart. There was plenty of time to rest when you were dead, and besides, you needed to stay awake for reasons other than on the fight below. At the other end of the Colosseum, you noticed a group of knights enter and spread out, getting in the way of many spectators. They were clearly searching for someone as they roamed around, removing the hoods from everyone and eyeing their faces closely. Father certainly is persistent, isn't he? Oh, or a little rebellious. Linnaeus, my ancient ancestor. Though you were concerned, It would take them ages to search everyone in the crowd, especially when anything exciting happened below and everyone stood up in cheers. You brought your cloak up and covered your face while keeping a watchful eye on the knights. Getting up and leaving would only make you look more suspicious and attract their attention. And besides, there were likely maybe even so far as 100 guards swarming the streets of the city, searching for you, all at your father's behest. Once they get close enough, you would take off. But for now, you just wanted to savor the freedom you had. You wanted to savor the freedom you had and enjoy the fights.
Take him down! That's right! Right there! Give him the old 1-2, buckle my shoe!
Despite the inspection, you still lost inhibitions and became swept up in the excitement with the crowd. The fight was quickly over, and the losing gladiators were dragged off the floor of the arena, while the winners rose their hands in the air to the cheering and booing crowd. The announcer stepped up to his podium and drew in a deep breath to speak out of his bullhorn.
Wonderful! Such an absolutely wonderful performance from our gladiators, and there is so much more to come. I need not remind those that have won this match that glory and gold go to those that make it to the end of this arduous competition. Let us take a moment to offer our prayers once again to the god and goddesses for their blessings.
The man's voice boomed through the stadium, quieting down the crowd, but you could tell that the people were getting antsy. They wanted more action. They wanted more violence. They came here for entertainment, and they didn't want it to stop. The announcer was quick to catch on, though, and kept his prayers short to move right back into the event.
Now then, let us announce our next fighters. Hailing from the town of Line is Arborn the Slick.
A lithe man in leather armor stepped forth with pride, twirling a short sword in each hand with deft grace. Despite his small stature, he was hard to miss due to the colorful cloth wrapped around his torso.
He may be 5'2" and thin as a razor, but don't let his size fool you. He's quick on his feet and has been the folly of many confident fighters. But how will he fare against our other competitors?
The crowd turned towards the rising of the metal gate as another man walked onto the field from the opposite end of the stadium. This is giving me that SpongeBob scene vibes.
A creature so fearsome, so terrible, so mind-bendingly large that those of you with weak constitutions may want to leave the stadium. I gotta get out of here! Too late! Ready or not, here he comes.
He was covered from head to toe in full metal armor, polished so brightly that the sun bounced off it from all angles, nearly blinding you.
Yes, we have a treat for you today, folks. Following in the footsteps of his father, he holds skills unparalleled in the kingdom and aims to become head of the house one day. It's the illustrious noble knight of House Prane, Magnus the White.
The knight strutted forward with the confidence and dignity befit one of nobility. He waved towards a cluster of women in the crowd, and they screamed his name. It's like a stan.
Will this be another badge of honor on his numerous and glowing list of achievements?
Oh shoot. Your eyes quickly darted between the two fighters, but became distracted when you spotted one last combatant entering the ring from an entrance in the arena right below you. All you saw was his great, broad rampart of a back, covered in muscles and littered with scars. Excuse me. Thick brown hair bounced with his heavy gait, and he stopped by the two with a menacing cross-armed pose. He wore leather armor that did little more than lightly cover his body, showing off his impressive stature and rippling muscle. If he was trying to be intimidating, it was clearly working by the way the two other fighters took a half step back. But if he were to take but one hit, he'd be out. Still, he knew exactly how this fight would turn out. You had seen it so many times before. In fact, he was one of the reasons you wanted to sneak out of the castle in the first place. His fight was one you didn't want to miss.
And last but not least, we have our final contestant. He comes all the way from Farahorn, a hulking brute of a beastman who has seen many battles here in the Colosseum. You feel the ground rumble as he walks, the weight in the air as he stares you in the eye. It's the one, the only, Ramos!
Dun, 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 dun.
Butcher of the Colosseum!
The rhino stomped his foot on the ground, raised his hands into the air, and belted out a guttural roar that was just as loud as the crowd. Woo! The crowd went wild, raising their voices and cheering even more than when they cheered for the other two combatants combined. Oh, we got a fan favorite. A man started around the stands, taking money for bets on who would win the fight. While you would have liked to join in, the fact that the knights were still roaming around meant that you had to remain as quiet and innocuous as possible. And besides, there was no need to. Being a prince meant that money was never an issue for you, so the heart-pounding risk, the allure of being on the edge of winning or losing it all, just wasn't there. What is this? Who is this beast and why is he here? The shimmering noble knight lifted his face guard to speak to the announcer. His voice was shaky. Oh, I see. Unbefit of someone who called themselves a knight, and he seemed to have lost all his confidence. Who invited this guy? I demand an answer. I was told that this was the last match and was to be a one-on-one fight of grace and honor.
Is that what you were told? The rules change, buddy.
Yes. I demand to speak to the organizer and ask this match be changed. Where's the manager?
I'm afraid that will not do. This match has already begun, and you have taken to the battlefield. Think of this as an opportunity to gain both greatness and prestige.
I mean, I guess that is kind of messed up.
Should you succeed in taking down the pride of the Colosseum himself, then there is nothing left to fear.
The knight looked back at Ramos, and you could see the fear in his eyes. Very well. He is but a beast, after all, and I shall tame him as such. The knight slammed down his face guard, unsheathed his sword, and stood at the ready.
Now then, let's get ready to rumble!
Blow after blow, the two knights could only focus on defense as they were smacked to the ground mercilessly by Ramos. They were more akin to flies than fighters as they scurried around the battlefield, avoiding being knocked out by the enormous beastman. As much as you wanted to focus on the fight, you still had to keep one eye on the knights who still hadn't given up on their search. Some woman had even gotten out of her seat and was smacking one of the knights away with her shoe for tearing apart her shawl. Oh.
Ooh, that has got to hurt. I'm afraid Sir Magnus the White is going to be Sir Magnus the Black and Blue in the morning.
The dust was already settling as you turned your attention back on the fight below. It appeared the heaviest beastman had finally caught that shining knight. Magnus was lying face down with Ramos' entire body pressed on top of him, pinning him to the ground. His once shiny armor was heavily dented, marked up with scratches and covered in dirt.
He may be big, but don't let his size fool you, folks. Let this be a lesson to never turn your back to a charging rhino.
Ramos had the strength of 1,000 men, was as tall as a great oak, and as wide as the Great Wall, or so the rumors went. But even if they were all just spun myths, these men were not beings to be trifled with, especially one of Ramos' size and stature. The audience waited to see if Magnus could escape from such a fate, but when he showed no signs of movement, it was clear this was all over for him. His zealous fans wailed in distress, with makeup mudding their faces over the fall of their handsome and noble knight. Aww. I mean, hey, they said that's kind of unfair. I was gonna say they called the rhino a cheater. I mean, not entirely wrong. He might have prepared differently if he knew. They spat in disgust and called the rhino a cheater, among other colorful insults geared towards beastmen. Oh, beastmen in general. He simply smiled. It was always a joy to see some stuck-up nobles getting knocked down a few pegs, especially those from House Prane, who had a well-known history of hating beastmen. I see.
Oh, but would you look at that? The fight isn't over yet.
The other gladiators saw this as a perfect chance to strike. While the rhino was still hunched over the fallen Magnus, he charged forward and leapt into the air with both blades poised. Watch out! You wanted to cover your eyes, but you saw a slight grin spread across the beastman's face. Ah! Ramos shot out his leg with a well-timed kick from behind, threw his assailant off balance. The blades narrowly grazed the rhino as he whipped around and finished his opponent off with a solid punch to the gut. Arborn went sliding backwards before tripping over his feet and rolling into the dirt to a stop. When the dust had settled, he was clutching his stomach, coughing and groaning in terrible agony.
What a blow from Ramos! One hit and he's down!
Ramos cracked his head left to right and then strutted forth to the fallen gladiator, peeking aside the blades in his wake.
Is this it for Arborn? Will he get up?
The gladiator tried to get back up, but after that last punch, it was easy to see that he was nearly ready to pass out. Dang, this Ramos has got the one-hit KO moves. He started to crawl away as Ramos punched. Oh, he started to crawl away as Ramos approached, and the crowd's cheers grew into bitter shouts. Oh, they wanted more of a spectacle than the one shown, and frankly, he had to agree. Oh, yeah, pretty quick. But it was clear to see that this fight was over. Just as Ramos was about to begin the fight anew, the man removed one hand from his abdomen and slowly raised it above his head.
Oh, that's it. Airborne has had enough, folks.
Ramos scoffed and spat to the side in annoyance before returning to the crowd and raising his arms in a triumphant roar. Despite the lackluster fight, the crowd still went wild with excitement. Ramos.
Always a blowhard, I see.
The bench groaned as the man beside you shifted in his seat. His gruff, apathetic voice took you a bit by surprise as you first thought that the seat he was in was empty. Though you didn't turn your head, he appeared to be a very large man, with armor that rattled as he moved and tufts of fur protruding out between the cracks, hinting that he could be a beastman. Out of the corner of your eye, he appeared to be quite muscular with biceps easily the size of your thighs. A long, slender tail flicked near his feet, occasionally brushing against your legs, confirming to you that he was a beastman. Someone like him, though, filling the seat should have alerted you. But then again, your attention was already pulled thin between the fight, the roaring crowd, and those meddlesome knights sniffing around. Speaking of those knights, though, the hairs on your back, the hairs on the back of your neck rose on end as you locked eyes with one of them. You were ready to flee, but rather than continuing his approach, he instead stopped and stared for several moments before turning to leave the stadium. As he left, he took the other knights with him. It almost appeared as though they recognized you, but why would they suddenly just leave? You couldn't imagine Father giving them the order to just find you and not carry you back home kicking and screaming. Perhaps they were searching for someone else entirely. Still, it was strange.
You know, too much bravado can lead to your downfall.
Huh? It appeared that the man to your left was talking about the crude display Ramos was presenting from below. With Magnus's helmet in hand, he pretended to slam it against his groin multiple times in a perverse way. You couldn't help chuckling, though. A little bit of pride never hurt anyone.
I suppose you might be right about that. Still, that's quite a barbaric display, even for him.
When the rhino was finished with his boasting, he tossed the helmet aside and strode off the grounds.
Well then, I take it you've had your fill of action?
What?
Still haven't recognized me. Suppose all this commotion does tend to dull the senses. What I'm saying is that it's time to come home now. Prince Linnaeus.
Nani? Your heart plummeted to your feet as the man whispered those last two words into your ear. Who was this man? And how did the man know your name? Better yet, why did he make the assumption that you were a prince? No, that was a dumb question. You just now recognized this beastman's voice and had an idea who it was sitting next to you all this time, but refused to acknowledge it. Still, you had to face the music, so you slowly turned your head to properly and woefully greet your neighbor. Ugh! Oh, crap. Oh, they're blinking. That's cool. It's always a nice little detail. You were about to hightail it out of your seat, but the beastman pushed you right back down.
Sit down. You're not going anywhere else without my permission.
Leandros. Oh, and I'm Linnaeus. His muscles tensed as he gently dug into your arm, holding you firmly in place. You weren't getting away anytime soon.
Thought you could leave the castle and not get caught, did you? I think it's safe to say you're in a lot of trouble when we get back home.
You're always siding with Father. I thought you were supposed to look out and cover for me. Isn't that what an older brother is supposed to do? What?
I'm your Kingsguard, not your scapegoat. And you know that I'm not your real brother.
I was gonna say, what are you doing, stepbrother? You turned your head and flicked your tongue. Well, You go through... Oh,
We go through this every time, Linnaeus. You can't just leave the castle without first informing me.
not like you would have let me go if I asked anyway.
Well, no. Today's important, and you know that. Your father has been waiting patiently all day to see you at the party.
All throughout the city, celebrations programmed through the streets and in taverns for your 20th year of life, with a grand and highly exclusive party reserved for nobles being held up at the castle. Well, you never cared much for it. Your father always ensured it was a day to be celebrated. But it was less of a celebration and more of a way for him to show off and stroke his ego. While the common man would have killed for an invitation to the castle, with a vast selection of entertainment, world-class cuisine, and fine drinks provided, you knew what really awaited you there. Pretentious, pompous patricians who would badge you with useless questions about what you would do when you became king, and try to curry your favor as much as they could for their own benefit. It was a disgusting display of gratuity and bootlicking that you wanted to have no part of.
Well then, Linnaeus, are you ready to go?
If I say no, will you let me stay?
No. I suppose I would then have to carry you off over my shoulder, and I'm sure you don't want that.
How did you even find me anyway?
Stalling for time now.
Oops. Oops. I feel like I missed something there. I guess not.
Koshiro informed me of your whereabouts.
What? But I thought he left the city. I thought he left the city a few weeks ago. I mean, I haven't seen him in forever. How can he possibly know where I was?
You'd be surprised what he knows. I've been trailing you ever since you left the castle.
You've been following me all this time?
I thought it would be nice to let you have a bit of fun on your birthday at the very least. But now it's time to leave.
Well, that's very thoughtful of you. But I really don't plan on going back home yet just to fulfill my father's wishes.
And just what do you plan on doing?
All at once the crowd roared again and flung themselves from their seats to cheer on the combatants below. The tension around your arm began to loosen as Leandros turned his attention to see what the fuss was all about. Despite Leandros' ever-vigilant guard, he had a tendency to get a bit jumpy and distracted around loud noises, granting you the perfect opportunity to make your escape. Gotta keep one step ahead of the bread line. Your arm slipped out easily from his hands, and before he knew it, you were free from his hold.
Linnaeus, don't you dare!
He had little time to catch you, but it was too early to celebrate. His claws had just enough reach to tear into the fabric of your cloak, pulling you back. Oh. Ah! You nearly tripped, but the cloak kept you from falling down, though it was pulled taut against your neck, cutting off your circulation. The cloak was a lasso around your neck, and Leandros began to reel you in, leaving you buckling like some kind of wild horse. Oh, jeez.
Linnaeus, you're making this harder on yourself than it needs to be.
Your face grew blue and cold from the lack of air, but the lion likely didn't even realize in his zealous arrest. Any moment you were likely to pass out, but you couldn't let that happen. You couldn't let him catch you and take you back home. You clawed at the cloth-like leash wrapped around your throat and dug your fingers into a hole. Using all your strength, you ripped at it, tearing you free and leaving Leandros with nothing but the tattered remains of an old mantle.
Linnaeus!
Leandros was flung backwards and you stumbled forward. People cursed as you blocked their view, but your only concern was on getting to the exit first. You never bothered looking back as he continued to yell at you. You just needed to make it to the stairs and get out of the Colosseum as soon as possible. You finally reached the edge of the aisle and jumped out, though you noticed a large figure at the top of the stairs already bolting down. How the hell?
Linnaeus, enough of these games. It's time to head back. Don't resist. You know you can't get away.
He might be a beast man, a being that was quicker, faster, more agile than you, but wearing such heavy armor and in such a crowded place like this, even he would have trouble catching you at this point. You looked down towards the bottom of the stairs and contemplated making the leap. It was a long way down. If you didn't land properly, there was a chance you might break a leg. But what other choice did you have?
Linnaeus!
Ooh. I thought it was going to give me a choice. Without wasting any more time, you jumped down the steps and landed on your feet with a painful thud. A sharp pain jolted up from your feet and coursed through your legs and rang your head like a bell. It hurt like hell, but you didn't have time to let yourself be bogged down by the pain. You glanced back up at Leandros through gritted teeth and smiled. It was a rather gutsy move you managed to somehow safely pull off, And with that much distance between both of you, he wouldn't catch you this time. Oh boy, things are about to get a little crazy. But I'm gonna have to call it here, folks. Thank you for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed. Looks like we were introduced to our ancient Greek versions of ourselves. Let's call it that. And yeah, I love it. The sound effects are great. The music's fun. The story's already intriguing, and the artwork's fantastic. If I haven't used that word already, so I'm already looking forward to this one, you guys, for sure. This one's definitely going into my regular slot. But I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you're having a good day, good night, good evening, whatever it is. I don't think I have any other announcements because this was, what I was gearing up to for a while. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. It's gonna take me a little while to edit this one. I'm gonna go back and forth with what little edits and stuff to do. But yeah, thanks again. This was a blast. Hope you guys stay tuned for next time. Take care now.